hoax, wasn't it? It was more about, you know, the hoax, and the controversy there was more about, you know, the story she's actually telling about that. But listen, there have been a number of hoaxes, and I think Australians are particularly sensitized to this idea of selling exoticism. There have also been hoaxes involving so-called indigenous writers and others. So I think that probably has all fed into it, and it is.
Well, I'm thinking specifically about the fact that Hillary handed out the victim narrative that everybody wanted to hear. I know that there is a range of them, but she kind of just, you know, gave readers exactly the kind of victimized.
I think that's a good point, and it may well have fed into that kind of sensitivity that you feel around this writing.
My brain is full, which is nice. After that, but
mine's completely empty.
but one thing you said in passing, and you dismissed that the criticism might be influencing literature. I wonder if that's true, and particularly someone like Tom Todd, who seems to me to actually be working with the ideas that you are. Is there not a possibility of actually reading the kind of criticism that you're reading and you're writing, and that starting to feed into the work in some way?
Oh, I think absolutely, and particularly somebody like Tom Cho. It should be, or perhaps also said, that he wrote this book as part of a PhD thesis at Deakin University, and the quote I had that I didn't have to talk much about, that I didn't have time to talk about, was clearly part of the exegesis of that. So he worked very much with the theories together with the criticism. There are other writers as well who clearly are very theoretically informed in their writing. Michel de Kreuzer would be one of them, Yasmin Gunaratne, another one, and there are others who don't want to have anything to do with the criticism. So yes, it's definitely a two-way business.
I think in that context, I thought your point about pop culture is interesting, because not just pop culture, but commodity culture is a sort of post-ethnic mode for some writers. Go back to Homework, You've Got It in the Lost Dog. That's another one which escapes me for the moment. But, well, Alice Punger's is also about commodity culture.
Well, it is very
shopping malls. It's a way of deflecting that whole creating one's identity, in a sense.
But it is also, I mean, very importantly, every now and then you see all of these writers stepping back and saying, I don't want to do that. If you think, you know, the contrast between Helen Demidenko, when she was awarded the Azel Gold Medal for the hand that signed the paper and danced in ethnic costume. A couple of years ago, when we had the Azel conference here, Michel de Kreuzer was awarded the same prize for her book, and in her talk, actually, she made a point of saying, I am not an ethnic writer. You know, she was so emphatic about it that she, in fact, insulted some other people who didn't mind being Asian Australian.
Is there a contrast here between the Asian Australian writing and Asian Canadian or Asian American? I mean, if you looked at the contemporary novels in Canada or in the States,
you can always find writers. It's as much a generational difference as it is a cultural difference, and particularly today in the more recent generation of writers, you find the same arguments happening in Canadian and American writers as well. But there has been a much stronger tradition in those countries of the kind of Asian boom, really the search for roots. That kind of writing has been much more popular in those countries than they have been in Australia. There have been a few examples in Australia, but very few. It seemed to me that perhaps sensitized by the sort of issues that I've talked about, people have been a little bit scared of going in that direction in Australia. But it is, as I said, it's a really bold generalization. So Jackie Lowe has another take on that. She says that in America, a lot of the Asian American writing came out of grassroots politics in the Asian American communities that had particular issues that they kind of united behind. That was never the case in Australia for various reasons, but if you look at sort of, you know, what one might call grassroots politics of the 1990s, it is as if the debates went into other directions, as I think I suggested in Australia. So it has to do also with patterns of migration. After all, you know, Asian America was well established throughout the 20th century. Large population, large migrant populations in San Francisco, for example, and a great many other places that created a certain literary and cultural traditions that we simply didn't have in Australia, because it is only very recently that we've had sufficient Asian communities to have that kind of, you know, cultural conversation.